How's it going, everybody? It's Steve Travesty, Ghost in the Machine. We are live. We are definitely live. My God. This has been one of my most anticipated interviews. Like Jordan Maxwell, big deal. This also a big deal to me because I consider this man like a kindred spirit. Somebody who's metal that gets it. So you're going to get in the mosh pit here with me and Sethikus Boza of Black Earth Productions on YouTube. Black Earth Productions, the Z.com. I found out about Sethikus because I'm friends with Andrew Bartzis, and I followed his Galactic Historian page, saw the interview with Sethikus, and was immediately like, I need to be friends with this guy. So that's what's going on there, because I didn't even know. I just knew I needed to connect with him, figure out a show. And we're going to get into big things. We're going to get into big things about our world and how we relate to ourselves, our community, our structural systems. Something that Sethikus knows a lot about on a real foundational principle that is just like my own, and I'm just really excited to pick your brain about it. Sethikus, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Ready to go.
All right. I'm a libertarian, so when people hear my show, everything's often framed in the libertarian perspective when I have these kinds of subject matters on my show. You've spoken a number of times about anarchy, I've heard, on your YouTube channel, and so I wanted to get into these philosophies and really what your view of how this structure works. You know, freedom, natural law. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, some of the core principles I live by myself. I am an anarchist. When it comes to the philosophy of libertarianism, the idea of free will, right? And then, of course, cosmic law, it really is a major game changer, man, because people don't even know what that actually is. Everybody has their idea of what free will is, but it's usually to do with a compartmentalized way of looking at reality instead of looking at reality from the lenses that we need to be looking at it. And everything, as far as I'm concerned, comes back to universal law. And it doesn't matter what your lifestyle is. It doesn't matter what your belief system is. It all comes back to this, because this is how things actually work. And if we're truly going to be free, then we need to be free within the mind first. Okay? And when people give themselves over to an ideology, say libertarianism or even anarchy, okay, it can really limit the perception and then compartmentalize the individual while looking at things through that fucking lens, okay? And then everybody else out there isn't seeing things the same way, right? And everybody's got their way of looking at it, like I was talking. The issue of free will, though, it's really a joke, because people think they have free will, but they don't understand the belief systems that they have are actually controlled behind the scenes. Even anarchy, okay? There's a perception of what anarchy is and going up against corporations and all that kind of stuff. I think it's like rioting in the streets. And when people walk that line, they don't realize how they're actually feeding into their own slavery, okay? This even goes into protesting. When has protesting ever changed anything? It's changed nothing. And the reason why is because when people go and protest, they're actually giving their power away over to something else instead of actually going and doing what they say they want to do. All right? Now, if somebody comes along and they want to mess with your free will, that's not a right. Harming other people. All right? If someone wants to live a certain lifestyle and it's bringing harm not only upon themselves, even though people do it every day. Well, I have free will, I can do whatever the hell I want. No, you can't. Because there's consequence according to cosmic law getting into cause and effect. And if we don't know how things actually work, then the effect of what is going to keep unfolding is the taking away of our actual freedom. You know, and the real freedom is to create an existence not only for ourselves, but potentially for other people that will grab a hold of this idea in alignment with cosmic law, where we're going to create a world where everybody has the freedom to not only express themselves, freely, but be able to grow and thrive, and of course, encouraging and empowering that. And you see the divide and conquer all over the place, man. Whatever dialectic people want to choose, whatever ideology or belief system, man, there's always an opposition to that. Why? Because we live in the realm of polarity, okay? But people don't see past the surface. They haven't even pierced the first veil yet, and they don't see how they're polarized within themselves, okay? And this is why people grab hold of these things, because they're looking for something to actualize them when it's not actually coming from a place that's deep within the true core essence of who they are, which would potentially connect them into a way of living and being that's far beyond what anybody could imagine, man. Okay.
Let me ask if I understand this correctly. I believe what it sounds like you're saying about free will is that we all do absolutely have free will, but there's many of us that don't have too many negative belief systems to actually use it, and thus perpetuates the argument that maybe there isn't such a thing as free will.
All right. Well, I'm going to get into free will and actually tell you what the will is. What is will? Free will is the right to make a choice. But unfortunately, the will of mankind has been hijacked. Getting into alchemy now. People are not going to know how things work unless they get into the occult. That's just the bottom line. You want to hang out on the geopolitical level, that's where everything's going to stay. That grid work of consciousness is never going to change. And the reason why is because it's running on the Hegelian dialectic. And that's all governments all across the world. The word government literally means mind control. So take it back to anarchy real quick. Anarchy is the idea or the philosophy of you governing your own mind, being the master of your own mind. And see, this is what I teach my students. We must start to become the masters of our own thought and emotion. And without study, without really getting into things and reading books, not just getting online or watching some bullshit on TV and think you know something. This takes years of dedication and wanting to actually know and having a passion for it. Getting into alchemy now in context to the will. The will in alchemy is our dragon. And where mind control is really happening is nothing to do with, well, no, I shouldn't say it's nothing to do with the brain. It is a lot to do with the brain, but it's more to do with our bodies on a multidimensional level, all right? Getting into the chakra system, there's the solar plexus. And the solar plexus chakra on what we term the level 1 energy system is their main inroad to basically triangulate consciousness into the lower 3 chakras. Okay, and this is where all the fear of death, the fear of not surviving, the fear of non-existence is happening, which is driving people on an emotional level, getting into emotional mind control on an unconscious, subconscious level. They're not even consciously aware that these programs are running, okay? Which is all feeding into the constructs that have been basically laced over consciousness within our reality field. And is keying people into polarity games. People can call themselves whatever they want, but do they know who they are? Do they actually know how things work? And the will is something that needs to be taken back in context. Now, getting into shadow work and healing, learning to remember, this is 101. Because people are not going to actually be able to make the right choices in alignment with truth until their will is in alignment with the true heart core intelligence. This is a very deep science, man, and it takes a lot of time to really understand how it works. But the will is our dragon, and we need to take our dragons back.
I really love that, and I watched your video on the dragon that you did recently. It was excellent. It's I don't know how you plan things out or how the universe called on it, but everybody right now kind of got
everything is very
tripped into this concept of dragon energy. We all know what happened on the surface level of the consciousness.
Yeah, and the dragon lines. I am dragon lineage, bloodline, shaman. This all goes back to the white dragon consciousness.
Well, the thing I actually wanted to say is that because we're talking about such foundational principles of who we are and how that affects this society and ending this mind control is like you've got the dragon line, right? And so there are other lines, right? Some of them work here, like are they all like neutral and it's you can use them for good and for bad? What are some of the other lines? Like what kind of roles do those end up manifesting as?
Okay, well the history of I'll say my lineage and things that have unfolded all goes back to what's happening in context to the brotherhoods. Okay, and this is on the highest levels in our reality field, beyond government, beyond any geopolitical spectrum, beyond any false belief system that has been given to us to buy in place of our true connection to our ancient roots. This is prevalent all across the world, especially here in the States. Nobody knows who the hell they are. And then we're given over to these subcultures, or we're given over to an ideology like, being a libertarian or even being an anarchist. And then people say, this is what I am, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
And that has nothing to do with who we are as a people. That is an idea that is sold, that people buy, that plays into the polarity games. Okay? And I don't advocate government. I know how government works, and I pierced that veil years ago now. It's nothing that's ever going to change. Forever. It is never going to change. So, until people realize, again, how things actually work, and I'm not just talking about with government, I'm talking about on all spectrums of consciousness. Taking it even deeper into how we work as individuals and who we really are. Why did we incarnate? What's the purpose of even being here? And the original purpose of this reality field was to be a partaker of the biospiritual regenesis. And going back millions of years in context to the cataclysms, this trauma is embedded within the unconscious, okay? And is where our free will was hijacked by what a lot of psychologists and other alchemists term the shadow, all right? And this is what's driving everything in the world. This is what is driving most people. I'm just talking about all the fear programming, threats of war and rumors of wars and just all this stuff, man. When the hell is the human race going to grow up? All war, as far as I'm concerned, is two little boys in a sandbox fighting over a Tonka truck, man. Now, is there a time and a place to fight? Yes. But the real war that we're facing is the one within ourselves, unconsciously projected out into the world, and nothing changes, man.
Yeah, they become a reflection of the most acceptable psychological projection of the society. Is probably the most the most broadly accurate way I could put it. I usually call like the forces that have caused these problems that you just talked about. I usually say the Cabal or the Luciferians specifically, because that covers like the conspiracies of the black magic, which I always think is pretty much the most principal of these problems.
Right, and that's just the first veil, man. And I'm not talking about people in government. I'm talking about people you have no idea who the hell they actually are. And the strings that they're pulling behind the scenes. And listen, man, they're 50 steps ahead. That's why we need to be 100 steps ahead, knowing how the game actually works. And getting into the biospiritual regenesis, taking back the will, taking back your dragon. We literally have to mount our dragons now if we're actually going to evolve as a species. And healing is number one. Stepping away from all of these constructs that are not actually serving the evolution of mankind. And it's psychopaths that want to be in those positions. Why are we giving our power away to psychopaths? No matter how good it sounds, no matter how good it looks, because they really know how to paint a pretty picture.
Absolutely.
And people buy into it every single election, every single time because they're hoping that something or someone outside of themselves is going to be the one to change it and not them themselves for their own existence and their own evolution. Imagine if everybody was encouraging and empowering that, creating that round table again where we're all working together for real and not bickering about this belief system, or I'm a libertarian, or I'm an anarchist, or I'm a Republican, or whatever. All of that is part of the divide and conquer. It will never change. As long as people pick a side, it will never change, man. And as far as I'm concerned, everyone needs to just walk the way. But then we say to ourselves, oh, we can't do that. We can't abandon what's been constructed, because then what will we have? Well, shit, we're going to have the opportunity to create something far better if we actually come into alignment.
Right.
But it's not going to happen unless people know that it's all about their state of mind. And they're not the masters of their thought and emotion. Most of their ideas, their belief systems are programmed into the energy bodies and is driving their consciousness. It's nothing to do with truth. It's nothing to do with where I feel, knowing what I know, we potentially could go as a species. In place of the wisdom councils of old, we have politicians. It's a joke to me because these people either pretend to not know these things or they're concealing it. Okay, which in most cases they are. But if they really knew what I'm talking about, they wouldn't do what they do. I'm even talking about the dark occultists, okay? The dark occultists don't even know what my kin know. And they can't know it because they won't actually go through the process to be able to connect to that level of consciousness that's beyond all of these grid works of domination and control. They want to be there in those positions, wielding the magic fucking wand of death.
Yeah.
And raking in that energy and harvesting genetics and consciousness, man. That's the whole purpose of it. And it doesn't matter how it packages itself, just as long as that is happening.
It seems, and you see this with a lot of really great villains depicted in our various stories that we tell ourselves, that there's always like somebody who's either a good guy or just like somebody sort of human, and fundamentally, before the hero can have the argument with them, they've already lost the light and decided to be the servant, and was putting their plan in action to reveal it. Things like, you want, Lord of the Rings, and you've got Saruman, the White Wizard, and then he falls to serve the Dark Master. Like, I think they love having these people that are compartmentalized from the truest of the light, shown how the light is flawed and doomed to failure. They put this facade in front of them. They decide to serve the darkness as something acceptable. Like whoever the hell the people are that support the Georgia Guidestones as a concept, where you have to kill off almost everybody, sacrifice that for the greater good of the planet and the resources of the population for who will be here. That's a negative belief system that we have to purge ourselves of.
Yeah. And the reason that's happening is because these people are not in alignment with truth. Truth will put you in a position. You will go from level to level to level to level, deeper, 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 right? Mm-hmm. But see, what happens, because people don't want to take responsibility for their own evolution, they placate to a guru or a belief system, and then whoever's in charge, or whatever, the one on the podium of the politicians or wherever, man. This is all cult shit.
Yeah.
It's a cult. It's a straight up cult, all of it. And again, it doesn't matter what it looks like, just as long as they get the effect that they are causing. Playing on the ignorance of individuals, because people do not understand the fact that they are playing both the darkness and the false light. Okay, the true light is beyond the spectrum of consciousness. Okay, and the only way that people are going to find the true light, as far as I'm concerned, is within the darkness of their own ignorance, going into that and accepting the fact that they don't know who they are, they don't know where they're going, and they need to find out. Otherwise, things are going to continue, and it's going to get worse if we don't catch it, because humanity, for the last 26,000 years, like I've talked about on Black Earth Productions, has been caught in the Atlantean cycle. And this is when the Dark Luciferians basically took over this reality field. It was systematic. It didn't happen overnight. But about 3,500 years ago, during the Dark Ages, that's when they really clamped things down here in this reality field, and especially in the last 200.
Yeah. But I think the last 5, 6 some odd years have been the influx of what is going to be foundationally coming next, because here we are.
Yeah, we're on the threshold of a timeline now, unlike any other timeline in history, if we catch it.
Yeah. Because I've been noticing, like, you know, as I've been doing my research on the internet, looking for other people, looking for solutions-oriented people, everything else, everybody that I'm coming across, that I've been coming across over the last, like, 2 years or so, are people that have actually been around as long as I have, on the internet doing this thing, as long as you have, and everything else. And I'm seeing, like, there's somebody who gets it. Oh, there's somebody else who gets it. And, wow, they got way more people listening to them than me. Oh, this is fantastic. I feel so much better now. It's just like, and that's what I love. And what was 5, 6 years? 2012. So, like, this obviously got something to do with that. And I'm not really want to, like, get into, like, the 2012 Wujo so much, because I want to talk more about us and what we're doing. And we're talking about nipping this thing in the butt, and that obviously means how we raise our children. I kind of wanted to get into the family unit. Maybe we should talk about the family unit. What the family unit's got to do. Yeah, I don't think you're a dad or nothing, but I'm.
No, I have a 10-year-old son. He called actually right before the segment started, and I said,
right.
I mean, if you, I got a radio show to do.
Yeah.
And he understands what I'm doing, and I teach my son, and he knows. And this is what the parents of our generation really need to wake up to, because the few generations before ours, they didn't get it. And that's why we're dealing with the mess that we are. What year were you born, real quick?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I was born in 1980.
1980, okay. So, yeah, we're both Pluto and Libra. Pluto and Libra generation, we are here to bring balance and harmony to the world. Right? And a lot of us are dealing with situations where, you know, the families have been torn apart. I'm divorced. I have a 10-year-old son. And I know many other people that are, you know, dealing with this. And it's interesting because I was studying this the other day, and it talked about Pluto and Libra generation. We get married, and then we get divorced, and then there's kids having to work shit the fuck out on top of everything else, man. And so it's a major challenge. And, you know, when it comes to the family unit, I live according to the old ways. The old ways. You know, not this, you know, feminist fucking, you know, soy boy, you know, generation fucking bullshit. And I don't know how much I can cuss on there. I'm gonna try to keep my passions under control, man, because when I really get fired up, I just it's like I mentioned, it's Carlin's 7 dirty words, but we're also all human. I just got to keep it real. I got to keep it real with your audience, and I got to keep it real with Revolution Radio. You know, it's been a while since I've been on Revolution Radio, and I have respect for everybody out there. You know, I'm going to say it like it is. And the number one thing about this situation and context is that men specifically need to wake the hell up and become men again. Be a man. Don't be a pussy. The way that most men think is being driven by this slave consciousness. They're in survival mode. They're trying to provide for their families, you know, make a paycheck and all that stuff. And that is looked upon in society that's what a man is. Yeah, the breadwinner. You take it over, you take it over to the woman. The woman takes care of the kids. The woman's in the home and stuff like that. And that's actually, as far as I'm concerned, the most honorable place a woman can be, is actually in the home, raising the children, making sure that the garden is flourishing while men are at the helm protecting the garden. And unless men are at the forefront, this garden that I'm talking about starts to become poisoned. And the reason why I think a lot of women out there are going absolutely apeshit over this feminist state of mind is because there's no real men out there to actually counter it.
Mm.
It's part of the mind control.
Right.
Okay. And the way that they got it set up like this: men as workers, women as breeders, and that's it. That's the epitome of man and woman in society. Do people not understand the mystery of mysteries? We still haven't figured out the potential of what man and woman coming together actually is. Mm-hmm. Right now, the state of mind that most people are in, this is the highest level that they reach, and that's it. They live their lives, and then they die, and then the next generation just does the same shit. What about men and women coming together doing some really powerful stuff in the world to actually present a unit that is in alignment with truth itself? And I'm talking about that raw consciousness, man. I'm talking about that raw power. The raw power of a true man and a true woman together in harmony and balance. Take it back to Pluto and Libra. All right. And our generation, we feel the imbalance. Yeah. I don't know if you're with anybody, but a lot of people out there are dealing with relationship problems. Really, the real issue is with themselves first, and then it's unconsciously projected. All these programs running, and people don't know who they are. Nowadays, a man could be a woman and a woman could be a man. That's insane. That completely goes against the law of gender. And then they push that on the children in the schools, like, it's okay.
Right, yeah. I mean, like, it's one thing if somebody's, like, working out
in rare
stuff
cases,
about who they are, and nobody was, like, trying to put it on them,
I'm sorry, go ahead, what?
No, I was just saying, like, yeah, like, it's horrible because, like, we never addressed the underlying reasons why there's this imbalance within a man to have female attributes, or for a woman to have male attributes. And so our answer to it's all
a part of the sorcery, man.
Right.
To destroy the family unit. You want to talk about the family unit? Let's talk about how they're working to destroy it from the inside out of the individual by putting this stuff out there, and then people go, oh, this must be true, this must be okay because this person's saying it or whatever, and they do not know how things actually work. Now, in rare cases, in context to being transgender, it can happen. But do I condone it as a lifestyle? Do I condone it for the whole human race? Hell no. Because that happens, that will be the complete destruction of the fabric of society and civilization itself. If you even want to call it that.
Right. I wanted to make a comment about when we're talking about the whole issue with the men being men thing. I think what the problem, part of what the problem was that the sorcerers had kind of projected over on, especially the women, was that they looked at your traditional kind of masculinity as
like that whole toxic masculinity.
Like the whole oh my god, it's the 1950s, like we saw in the movies where the guy's always a rigid asshole, uncaring, beats his wife because she's wrong and he's right, and so they projected everything about the divine masculine onto that.
And see, look, man, people don't even know what the divine masculine is. The divine masculine ain't gonna tolerate. The divine feminine ain't gonna tolerate. And see, people go around claiming this, but they still have no idea what it actually is, because if they did, then they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. They wouldn't be condoning that which creates chaos within the individual first, and then, of course, things on the domestic level, and then take it all the way up into the highest places of power. It's all the same. People confront, man. You can go out there, all the world's a stage. Mm-hmm. Pick your character. Be it. Do it. Live it. Wholeheartedly. It's just all this divide and conquer, man. That is the purpose of it. And again, they don't care how it unfolds or how it looks, just as long as that is the effect to their cause. And yeah, it's being driven pretty hard. But I think anyone with common sense is going to be able to, see it for what it is.
All these very fundamental principles that are here. It's probably something like, because I ask myself about, like, does something end up getting into writing, and then does all of a sudden what becomes written, do we end up turning that into a trap because maybe we phrased it in a way that uses language of domination and control? The rules about this they're probably more rules than laws. It's probably much more because there's free will, right? So, like, everything we're talking about with the family unit, the individuals, and how we treat each other and whatnot, we're always looking towards the good book. We're always looking towards a Bible, a law, a law book, a philosopher's written down, and then it's the question of once something's been authored. I mean, does it end up becoming, well, that was just one guy's opinion, and I don't have to live that way?
Well, it definitely depends on what it is and who's speaking. And truth cannot be ascribed to any one person or any one culture or any one race or being. Truth always existed, and people are either in alignment with it or they're not. It's not hard to know, and reveals itself to those that seek it. And it will show you. It will show you if something's bullshit or if it's actually real. It will let you know, and there will be confirmation. It can be known. And this is what I work to be in alignment within, whether it's expressed or not. See, people are being ripped and torn apart from the inside out. Because, like I said, people know how to front. They know how to put on an air like they got their shit together. But I guarantee every single person listening to my voice right now is dealing with something in their lives, including me. I'm not going to put myself on a pedestal and act like I don't go through a lot of the same stuff that I touch upon in the segments I presented on Black Earth Productions, because I do, and that's why I talk about it. As far as I'm concerned, healing is number one. If we don't heal, then it doesn't matter what we think we know about anything, because your points of view and your perception of it is going to be toxic. And the dogs bark because we run.
Yeah. Well, when I tell people that, like, I'm empathic, or if I tell them that, like, I read tarot and runes, or I'm developing my natural talent to do tarot and runes. When you're ready to, like, know that I've got something special that's really hard for me to even explain to myself sometimes, but I can do something that's good for you, that's beautiful for you, and that makes me happy, making you happy. Then we're at a place where energetically it feels right, because the gift will not be destroyed and distorted and wasted. Like, I would feel awful about my talents if I just flaunted it on people that thought I was performing a parlor trick to be mocked.
Right. That's not the type of magic we need to be working with or even getting into, man. The runes are cosmic law. And I work with them. I am very connected to my roots when it comes to the ancient shamanic tradition, Seth and Golder, as well as other modalities they call divination. But see, all of these sciences, and they're sciences. Okay, it's not a parlor trick. These arts and sciences are there for the individual to help them discover who they are and what they're here to unfold and how to actually do that. Otherwise, you're going to trade off your will. You're going to give your dragon over to the programming that's riding your system via the shadow. They're not teaching these things to the masses because they want people to be slaves. Okay, this is why I created the platform Blue Flame Healing Arts and Occult Science, so that people could come over and get the opportunity to actually be able to learn these things. Okay, I've been in practice with all of this for over 20 years, and these things are very real. And life is now, from moment to moment, and people miss it every day because they're either caught up in the past or they're in fear of the unknown, and they're in fear of the future, which is driving them to do what they do. Because you can get all up in your head. You notice that you get up all in your head about stuff, right? Where the true intelligence of where we need to be connecting is the heart center. Okay, the intelligence that's there.
Yes.
So The tarot is a bridge between what I call the galactic and solar spiral. It's a bridge point. And all of the bridges of consciousness that connected us to what is beyond the good works of domination and control were completely fucking obliterated. Okay? And then, of course, you got religion in place of the true sciences, which keeps people in kindergarten, and then, of course, demonizes all of the true sciences that we actually need to be grabbing a hold of again. So that's great that you're, looking into the ruins and you're looking into the tarot, man.
Absolutely. I don't know. Like, I hate to say I predict, the future, but like I am so good at calling.
It can get scary, man.
I get very good at calling the shots about like things like happening in the social constructs for me, checking out because of like how I chose to do my conspiracy research, and I ultimately was really looking for something through like, well, I mean, we're there's got to be something going on that's real about our democracy aspect of things and the will of the people reflected in the movements in this world. There's a certain level of acceptance, whether you've got a tyrant that was forced into your nation's rule, or you believe you chose one, like we believe we did here. I sat there and I looked at it and like I was happy with this election, not because of Trump, but because of where the people were making conscientious decisions of going, which I felt was a consciousness level, an energy level that I could work with.
Listen, man.
Yeah.
It does not matter what people think to believe about anything when it comes to politics.
Right.
And I'm going to drop a bomb and just tell people the truth. Trump is House of fucking Orange. Come on.
House of Orange? That's something I've never heard of.
I'm going to get into it, man. Just look it up.
Okay. I will look House of Orange. Okay. All right. That's something new. Thank you. We were talking, actually, I wanted to jump back about the shamans, I think, because, we're talking about the society. And so maybe this is about the wisdom councils, but maybe talk more about like what shamans should be in our society, because obviously not everybody's going to be a shaman,
right?
Like a shaman, like should we have shamans like the way that we have doctors, or should shamans be our doctors? You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, shamanism, as far as I'm concerned, not everybody can be a shaman. Shamans are chosen by the higher force, and these are the true way showers of the world.
Oh, you know what? Hold on that thought. We'll be right back.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Looking for a nightcap to fill your listening needs? Come join us on Spaced Out Radio with me, Dave Scott, right here on Revolution Radio. Monday through Friday for 3 hours a night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we will take you down the supernatural path. From ET contact to the paranormal and all of the spiritual, cryptid, and conspiracy stories in between. You can find us right here on Revolution Radio, at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. Spaced Out Radio. It's a night of talk and interaction. Are you experienced?
Let us play with all our toys and let us think that we're big.
Join me weekdays for my new show, Tell Chris Joe. It's going to be a problem show brought to you live from Kensington. Thursdays, I'm dealing with hot topics, heated debate, what's new around the world, and ring-ins to discuss listeners' problems and offering considered and heartfelt solutions. So join me, Chris Hart, for Tell Chris Joe. Stop what you're doing, grab a cup of tea. I'm coming live from Kensington. Relax. Let me entertain you with a coffee bar online. Listeners' very personal problems. So that's Thursdays, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. See you there. It's going to be lots of fun.
You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome back, everybody, to Ghost in the Machine with your host, Steve Travesty, here on Revolution.radio. We are a 100% listener-supported station, so please help us out, hook us up, show us some love. Let us continue to show you this deprogramming. I am here with my very special guest for the evening, Sethikus Boza of Black Earth Productions on YouTube and blackearthproductions.com. And we have just been getting into the big foundational principles of humanity here. And I've been in love with it this whole time. It's been amazing. Seth, you're here with us, yes?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, excellent. So Seth, I wanted to allow you to continue on your thought, and I just wanted to ask, is it okay if I have a special friend pop in to ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to pull her in. Please continue to tell us what you were saying about the shamans. I'm dying to hear it.
Right. When it comes to shamanism, true shamans, will be put through absolute rigorous trials of initiation to actually be a bridge here in this reality field, being wayshowers, being those that actually know the true sciences of the universe and how things actually work. With all the wars and the cataclysms that have taken place, their goal has always been to destroy the shaman lines for this very purpose, because this knowledge is passed down not just through oral tradition, which then later became writing and manuscripts and stuff like that, but literally is passed down through the blood, getting into blood codes, getting into soul codes, getting into things on a cosmic level. Okay, and this is why I personally know that not everybody can be a shaman. Now, to be a shaman is not anything that to be taken lightly. You know, nowadays with all the new age hippie BS that's out there, it's like people have this idea that they can be a shaman and not actually go through real trials of initiation that are in fact enacted by the higher force itself. This happened to me in the year 2000 and has been guiding me ever since, leading up to the present moment. And I'm just still getting started. It took me over 20 years to come to the level that I'm at now to teach what I am, being 50 to 75 steps ahead of where I am even at speaking now. When it comes to the occult, and I've shared this fact, everybody out there can be a magician, but not everybody can be a shaman. And shamans are intermediaries here in this reality field as ambassadors for things happening on a multidimensional level. And the reason why it's so rare is because of New Age propaganda and all of the mind control that's coming out of the Fabian Society funding the New Age movement since the 1970s. They're giving people over to a pseudo science when they talk about ascension, and then it's the Galactic Federation of Lights, or light beings, and all this kind of stuff that people say that they're experiencing, but they don't understand the game that's really going on. They don't understand the negotiations that have taken place with other races and beings that do exist here in this reality field. But see, it's not happening in a linear way, a seeing reality. This is happening on a multidimensional level. And it all goes back to consciousness. Now, I have interfaced with spirits literally almost every day. But I'm not in the business of invocation of spirits. People that are in the business of invocation of spirits, I talked about this recently on my video called Wizard's First Rule. People that are in the business of invocation more often than not do so because they don't see the power that's already there within themselves to make that connection to their core essence. And the difference between what a lot of people are being taught out there versus what the true shamans are bringing forth is diametrically, it's not even the same universe of consciousness. The grid works of consciousness that are beyond the grid works of consciousness when it comes to the matrix control systems is so far beyond what I can fully put into words. And the people got just a taste of this consciousness, of actually being connected to it. They would be running to it and they would be like, okay, teach me. I want to know this. I want to know how to become the master myself. I want to know how things actually work. And this is what the shaman was there for in context to the tribe. And is also why, like I said, a lot of the wars that took place, especially in the Middle Ages, were all designed to basically destroy the shaman lines, so that sick psychopaths can be in the positions of domination and control in place of the wisdom councils that were once here. And this is going back millions of years, okay? And this is what has been activated within me. It's been activated within other people as well, and is why I'm talking about this, because we've traded wisdom for psychopathy.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I feel like one of the reasons why I'm here and my empathic talents are what they are is that under the right circumstances of being able to talk to somebody, to relate with somebody who may be part of the dead, the as in like the just the numb. The numbness of that comes with this psychopathy, like the people that are just on the automatic, like go to work and go home and do some family functioning or something like that, go to bed, get up and do it all again in the office universe or whatever it is. And it's just like, you guys need to learn how to feel again. And like you're not really feeling, because it's amazing how, like, I at a certain point I began to realize, man, people don't feel shit the way I feel shit. I started realizing that, like, when I was a little kid, and made me resent a lot of people around me and cause a lot of isolation, because it's like, you know what, I just can't relate to anybody. And I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I was picked on a lot too. So,
people that are highly empathic are picking up on the energies of the reality field. I deal with this every day, on top of everything I just mentioned in context to spirits and literally being able to travel worlds at will, traveling the stars, traveling those grid works of consciousness. And listen, man, humanity is not going to evolve until we all remember that the heavens above are within us. To be able to travel, you can go if you know how to navigate, if you know how to actually make that connection. Because everything out there is a reflection, literally a mental projection, as above, so below. So the gift of empathy, taken to an extreme, can kill you if you don't have personal boundaries, if you don't know how to gauge energies, especially with individuals, or are so caring that you give yourself over to a psychopath. And this is what happens to a lot of people, because you want to help them, because you care, right? But the paradox of that is that those individuals are so self-murdered, they're going to go out and try to save the world without even saving themselves first. It ain't going to happen otherwise. Because and if people did that, if people actually learned the sciences of what I'm talking about in context, they would be able to save themselves. And that's essentially what we're all here to do. I can't do that for you. I can't do that for anybody else except myself. And you better make damn sure that what I'm saying is true, and that I am doing this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking the way that I am about it. Empathy, though, is necessary. It helps you to be in the position to feel, to be able to feel what somebody else is going through, to be able to have that sort of compassion and that care for, all the crazy stuff that's happening in the world. But again, taken to an extreme, that empathy can be taken advantage of, and so it's all about finding that balance and harmony within yourself. Going back to Libra, okay, and Libra generation and Libra individuals, people in our generation, we are gatekeepers, like Anubis, that stand at the gates between worlds, weighing the hearts of mankind with the feather of Ma'at, which represents cosmic law. The runes, all the stuff that we talk about. Yeah. What is the condition of people's hearts really? What is the condition of people's minds really? What is your state of mind really? Without lying to yourself and being completely honest, and not being afraid to look into those, dark, inverted, emotional states of mind and being like, okay, why is this here? And actually having empathy for yourself, having care for yourself. Okay. I think is a very important part of the process. And so with that, I can definitely relate to what it was like for you growing up as well, because I looked out and I was like, damn, this is not right.
Yeah, I'm gonna I want to introduce our special question person in just a second, but I did want to cap this off just by saying, and I told you a little bit about this as we're getting to know each other prior to the interview, because I came from an evangelical Pentecostal church, and I
was a youth pastor for 7 years, man.
Right, yeah, wild stuff, and this is part of the reason. One of the other reasons why I feel so strongly connected to you is, both of us come from these very interesting, parallel, opposite paths with the church. But one of the things that I ended up just taking away with me, because as I went along, it just continued to be foundationally true, was just the 2 commandments of Jesus. Love your fellow man as you love yourself, and love the Lord thy God, or however you want to kind of translate that, You
want me to teach you a secret about what that actually means?
Yes, teach us all.
The 2 commands that are given actually have nothing to do with Christianity. Some people want to take it back to the Gnostics, and even the Gnostic teaching is distorted. And what people don't realize is that they're working with fragments. This fragment in particular, the real secret of it is this: without connection to what I term the higher force, creator source, you will not know what true divine, quote unquote, love is. you will not have it for yourself, and you will not be able to give it, because we cannot give to others what we don't have for ourselves. Go back to the relationship you have with yourself. Everybody out there right now, listening to my voice, go back to the relationship that you have with yourself, being completely honest. Can you say to yourself, I actually truly love myself? I actually accept myself. And right there, you're going to have your answer, whether or not you're connected to what we're talking about in context. I mean, it's not like a great mystery, man.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
the knowledge and the secrets of the kingdom are only given to those that have the eyes to see and the ear to hear.
Yeah.
The inner eye, the inner ear, the inner sanctum, the inner temple.
Yeah. People can be really hard on themselves, and it's okay to forgive yourself and get through and get to that path of loving yourself again.
Well, when it comes to forgiveness, there's a line I won't go past when it comes to that, and it's totally justified.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying, there are definitely things I will never forgive. It's like giving a lance to your enemy and basically saying, okay, just run it through my chest. It's okay, I forgive you. It's a joke, man.
Yeah.
And that religion specifically puts people into the state of mind of being passive, docile sheep.
Yeah. I'm not saying that there aren't rules. I mean, like, dear God. But
I'm just saying, man, I've been there. I was a youth pastor, man.
Of course.
And I saw how those that were in the positions of leadership acted behind the scenes versus what they did, in front of the congregation. It was two completely different fucking worlds, man. Right.
And in Mike's
a lot of them were actually in league with the Dark Luciferians, like I've talked about.
Yeah. And in my experience, like the pastor of the church that I was attending, which was not my own church originally, because I was brought up Catholic and came into it like that. They became like family to me, and it was never a terrible issue. There was always an openness with my family, and everything was copacetic on the level. But as far as that hypocrisy factor is concerned, it wasn't there, and it was healthy. It was healthy for me, and it served me at that time. And I wanted to, because she's been waiting so patiently. Everybody, it's our favorite host. We all love her. It's Noreen Helphand. And how are you doing, Noreen? You have a question for Sethikus.
Hey, Steve, thank you. Hey, Seth, I know you and I have had some text exchanges before, but I think this is the first time we've spoken, so how are you?
It's good to hear you.
Yeah, same here. It's been a fascinating, I hope my volume here is okay, but it's been a fascinating conversation between you two. Earlier, Seth, you mentioned, or Sethikus, or Seth, however you want to be addressed, you mentioned earlier about how humanity, our free will has been, hijacked, so to speak. If we think of ourselves, and this is not to be arrogant or anything, but, and I hate using New Age terminology like light workers or whatever, but just say spiritual people. If we're kind of on that sort of path, and that could vary for the individual, would you say that even for spiritual people, our free will has also been thwarted? Misguided might not be the term, but thwarted, kind of like, I know we're part of the same world as everyone else, so would you say it's difficult for us even to access, say, free will?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It bleeds out into everything. Nowadays, people can slap the term spiritual on anything, and all of a sudden it's spiritual, and it's a joke. Mm-hmm. What is real spirituality? What is real connection? And as far as I'm concerned, with what's been revealed in study, my personal pathwork and my experience going through everything that I have, unless you have connection with your true core essence, you are not spiritual at all. And most people, their heads are full of ideas. But the way that they conduct themselves and the way that they actually live their lives is not spiritual whatsoever. Anybody can get online and present themselves to be a certain way, but okay, how do they actually live? What do they actually do from day to day? Are they taking time and getting into the healing arts and actually studying and learning about how things actually work? And, instead of running out still toxic, grabbing onto an idea that they read online, or they jump over this group or that group. Because see, I talk to a lot of students that come out of a lot of these new age spiritual movements, and behind the scenes on the multidimensional level, it's all being ran by the sorcerers. People are being given over to this pseudo spirituality, pseudo spiritual experiences that are keying them in to the lower astral grid works. Now, I'm not saying these people aren't having authentic experiences, but the real question is, okay, what are they keyed into? What's actually going on there in that grid work of consciousness? And if it's not in alignment with any sort of truth, which does not contradict itself, by the way, nowadays with this postmodern propaganda that's gone out, everybody can have their own truth, and this is my experience, and this is my truth, but it completely contradicts this over here. It's the same thing going on among the brotherhoods in context to the left wing and the right wing brotherhoods. Because listen, I was into dark magic when I was younger, all of it, in up to my eyeballs in it. Okay, I understand all of that. There's no black magician out there that can convince me otherwise. And it's the same thing going on with religion. It's the same thing going on with anything in context to a lot of the things talk about when it comes to angelics or ascended masters or alien factions. This whole idea of ascension. When it comes down to it, the will of mankind, it's been hijacked by all of this stuff, because the will, in order to ride the dragon of alchemy, it needs to be ridden by the true core essence. And you're not going to know the universe. You're not going to know what the gods and goddesses actually are, let alone what I term creator source, which is that pure, raw, infallible consciousness, until you know thyself, until you know how to, go in and see how things work with you as an individual, and then know how to navigate the spirals of consciousness, the solar, the galactic, and the universal. And this is a lot to get into. But the will as ego. And see, I'm not opposed to ego at all. Actually, it needs to be reinforced. People don't have a lot of will nowadays. It's the will, it's that driving force.
I agree with you. I have to say
the question is this, hold on. The question is, what is driving the ego? Is it the shadow that's riding the dragon, or is it being ridden by the true core essence of the individual? And in most cases, in context, why people talk about the ego in the way that they do is because it's being ridden by the shadow. And that's it. Ego isn't really the issue. Will needs to be reinstated, needs to be taken back. It's the shadow that's the real issue. It's all the stuff that we don't want to look at about ourselves. See, it's really easy to point the finger at all the evil out there. And yeah, it's happening.
I've always felt that that the one thing as a basic principle, just the question of understanding it properly, that I think it was Sigmund Freud had theorized, and it resonated with me. It still resonates with me today, is the ego, the id, and the superego, and that there's a balance there in the psyche. That feels very true to me on a general level, but the specifics of it I may not fully grasp.
Sure. And that gets into the whole concept of conscious, subconscious, unconscious. It's all consciousness. But most of the programs that are being controlled by the shadow consciousness of individuals, it's all this unconscious projection, and they don't even know it. They don't even see how their will's been circumvented. Even the people in power, they don't see how their will has been hijacked. Okay? And it's the same thing with every spiritual movement out there. It's just all besides the point. And nobody out there in context that is doing this stuff is the master of themselves at all. Like I said, if they wouldn't want to be having people follow them, it's like the classic cult leader. They're going to go out there and change the world. It's the same idea that a lot of people have. They get on fire for this sort of thing, but they run out there toxic. And then they wonder why stuff falls apart or it doesn't work. Or it just, feeds further into the chaos magic that's running our systems on an unconscious level.
That makes sense. Another thing that I always worked with as well, which it probably evolved from thinking about the ego, the super ego, was I kind of felt like there was this internal holy trinity of consciousness that I've spoken of on this show a couple of times. My principle of it, which is the abstract mind, some would call the right hemisphere, the construct mind, some would call left hemisphere, and the heart. And you put these three principles together, and and it's part of you being a whole person.
Yeah, if thought and emotion are in alignment with the true core essence, then yeah, the output of consciousness with the individual is going to be streamlining from their true core essence. They're going to be gauging reality from that place, from within themselves. And see, getting into some of the sciences I practice and teach, thought and emotion are not reality. Okay?
Right.
You notice how quickly your thoughts and emotions flux.
Mm-hmm.
And until thought and emotion are in alignment with the core, which is connecting us to grid works of consciousness that are beyond the systems of domination and control, then we're not going to even know what the potential of reality actually is. Hence the term nothing is what it seems, right? And nothing out there is what it seems. It's all lies. It's all BS. But we feed into it. We allow our thoughts to dominate us. We allow emotion to drive us instead of us being the master of what we are thinking on purpose and what we're feeling into. And unless that is in alignment, in context to everything that you're talking about, what the super ego, what's the super ego? Going back to what I was saying, ego was. Ego is the will. So there's the lower will, and then of course there's the higher will. Well, the higher will is of course what we want to be in alignment with and in connection with. But unfortunately, most people are just not even consciously making a decision to connect to any sort of higher consciousness or perception whatsoever. And I don't think in the condition that we find ourselves in as a species have the right to do that anymore. Okay, because we're coming into a time, as far as I'm concerned, if things keep getting driven forward in context, there's going to be a new renaissance. And that's potentially what's on the horizon. Okay, but how much do we want?
Yeah. And that's why I wanted you on my show. That's why I wanted Jordan Maxwell on my show and Jeffrey Matt. But that's what I've been doing with my show the whole time is really trying to push the best ideas of who we are forward, looking at the worst ideas of who we are and judging them accordingly. Those are the things that I've done. And so I feel like I'm very effective in that. That's why I call my show Ghost in the Machine. This internet thing where these thoughts
that title, man. That's good.
Are these thoughts are in the archive, something you can retrieve, like not just talking about the Revolution Radio archives, which I suggest you subscribe to. It's out there on YouTube. Somebody took that idea and maybe they loved it so much they started a blog about it. People are writing songs about it, so on and so forth. And it's just like if I get like one view on a video, but that view happens to be the Cult of Orange or whatever Donald Trump is, and it gets through to him, that's what we're trying to do here. That's what my show is about. I feel like that's what Revolution Radio is about.
Can I interject something? Earlier, I was texting to you about tomorrow is the new moon, fully into Taurus, and then on the 15th, a few days from now, is the planet Uranus goes into Taurus. So we're coming from Uranus and Aries into Taurus. So we got these two mega events in 1 week. Seth, what's your take on this week with these planetary energies going on?
Well, I definitely feel them. That's a lot to get into. Mm-hmm. The transition from Aries into Taurus. You said Uranus, correct?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
It'll be,
now,
yeah.
I want to actually let people know what Uranus is. The Uranian realm of consciousness, which is there for us to explore on the solar spiral. The planetary spheres, all of them, are stargates of consciousness. The Uranian realm, specifically, it's interesting that you're sharing that it's been in Aries and now it's going into Taurus. In context, there's been a lot of impatience with the progression of consciousness. Aries is like that Spitfire. Aries makes a decision and they don't think twice about it. And
That's me.
More often than not, they're gonna run out and do stuff, and then later maybe even regret certain decisions that they've touched. And as far as everything going on with Uranus is a school of consciousness. It's a midpoint between lifetimes where people can go and learn and actually get access to some of the works within the halls of the Mente. It's basically like a cosmic refresher course that we go into. And depending on what your Uranus is what you're going to be working with in context to the transit that's affecting your personal disposition with it. Uranus is a school, and it's ironic because I actually am a Uranian, and I not only teach there on a multidimensional level, and if people don't actually understand what I'm saying, that they're going to think I'm crazy. I teach there, though, in between realms of consciousness in context to what's happening on the solar spiral, helping people to bridge a course over to the galactic, but also here on ground level in this reality field, in physicality. And see, in Midgard, here, everything converges here. There is no realm of consciousness that we cannot access. And I'm not talking about going off into, some other world or universe. Everything is converging here. And like I said, until people recognize that the heavens above are within us, we're not going to evolve. You can access this stargate of consciousness within you. It's like that with all the planetary spheres. And then getting into things on the galactic level, this is when people start talking about Andromeda, Orion, the Pleiades, Aldebaran, Vega, Lyra. All these different star systems are stargates of consciousness that are there within us to be able to access. And this is how people are also having interface with different spirits or beings or factions or whatever. It's a literal mental projection of what is happening within their own systems on a multidimensional level. So the transit with Uranus, I would actually need to look more into that to talk more about it from this point forward. So,
well, what's interesting about Taurus, just generally speaking, astrologers are commenting about Uranus going into Taurus is sort of like an upset with the material world, the economy, earth changes. I can see that too, but I think, in terms of consciousness, it's sort of, there's a dichotomy there, right? Because I feel like it's kind of like a split, like a sort of like a upset in consciousness or the material world on one end, and yet sort of like a stabilizing, because Taurus is obviously earth sign, it's stabilizing. So yeah, that's interesting, and that's just my take on it.
Yeah, and Taurus is fixed. It's very hardworking and it's stubborn as hell. Once Taurus makes a decision, you try to back Taurus into the corner, you're going to get the horns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm in Aries and I have Venus in Taurus, so yeah, I know a lot of Taurus.
Because Venus rules Taurus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Uranus, though, is a school of occult knowledge on a multidimensional level. The question is, have you been able to unlock the door with the keys that are there within yourself while navigating these spirals, right? Because this energy, all the transits, all the stuff that's going on, it does have an effect on everything. Anyone that doesn't know this science, or people want to foo-foo astrology, man, you got your heads up your butts.
Man, I think that might have to be the next time we interact with each other here on my YouTube channel or whatever
I do
next. Astrology, man. Like
I do it every day.
Yeah. I love getting the most precise understanding of these things. It's so fascinating what happens with Saturn and what happens with Mars and Venus and
the secret, right? The secret with all of that, it's recognizing why you do what you do, why you see things the way you see things, why you feel things the way that you feel things, and nobody out there is the same. There's nobody out there with the exact same disposition. Yes, we're working with similar energies here, but there's no one person that's operating the same. And and this is why the system mechanics of gnosis are so important in context to the evolution of civilization. Because listen, the Dark Ones still use this science, and they indefinitely are using it against humanity in context to energies, consciousness, and archetypes, and drawn to these allegories where good and evil just seems to keep playing itself out over and over and over and over and over again. It's the same theme. This is what's happening within us. So getting into these sciences helps a person find that balance within themselves and come to terms with themselves so that they can go to the next level. And it works. It's flawless. It's an eternal science. I would not be where I'm at in my life unless astropsychology was a major part of it.
Let me ask. I can't remember if I've seen you answer this before anywhere else, so this might be repeat information for some that know you better than I know you. The big eclipse from last in the ether when that happened.
All right, you cut out there for a second. What was that?
The big eclipse from last year. The super eclipse that we had. What happened on that solar eclipse when it traversed our country?
Well, I definitely encourage people to go on to Black Earth Productions and listen to the segment that I did with Andrew Parsons. My kin got our timeline on the solar eclipse. And this was a build-up, a 17-year build-up for me personally, going all the way back to the year 2000 when my code started to be activated again. Leading up to that moment, the strike that was unleashed with Andrew Barsis happened on a multi-dimensional level, dude, and I can't even fully put into words what actually happened. And it was warfare beyond what I can even describe to you. They're trying to keep their systems of domination and control in place, and this is everything to do to what we call the Phoenix Spike Matrix. This is directly connected to CERN and the grid works of the lower astral.
Mm.
Well, I gotta say this, that's amazing you just said that about CERN and all that, because as you know, and I think both you know, the next full one that happens to cross the US again will be in 2024, I think, yeah. And that's gonna go from the opposite end, right, of the country. I think from Mexico up to Maine, or I'm not sure what direction, but it's gonna make a cross. So that will be X marks the spot right in the middle of the country to form that cross, and that's supposed to be another big event, like you just described, to fulfill it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The eclipse that took place back in September. This solar eclipse was in Rahu.
Are you talking about Rahu and Ketu?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Okay.
North node, south node.
Right. Exactly.
But taking it even deeper beyond astropsychology. This is everything to do with the Ouroboros and the grid works therein in context to the lower astral. And I've seen the lower astral. It's like H.R. Geiger times a fucking 1,000.
Yeesh.
Yeah, you can imagine. People out there know the artwork of H.R. Geiger. And I've been there. I've traveled through those grid works. In getting into these sciences and everything that I teach, this is why I'm doing the full pack initiation with our services, because I get into all of this, not just astropsychology, but also what's happening in context to everything I'm talking about at the moment. Rahu, take it back to the Nordic tradition, the world serpents, the surrounding Midgard, keeping humanity in the same feedback loops that we've been caught in over and over and over again. Thor, or Thunar, another term for Thunar is Indra, getting into the Vedic tradition. All right, take it back to the wisdom councils.
I feel like it's all the gods that wield electricity may be kind of the same thing or in the same club.
Well, what Thunar represents is the electromagnetic force. It's the energy force, positive and negative charge of the energy force, which, by the way, has nothing to do with good or evil. So when people say that person's being negative or that person's being positive, no, their energy is just polarized. The energy force within them is polarized. The ultimate good and the ultimate evil exist. And anyone that disagrees with that, well, you are really stupid. Evidence of that is all across the board. Where we get caught up, though, in the game is when we don't know how to work with the energy force. And this is what Thunar is. This is what the Monia is. This is Arthur's Excalibur. Take that back to the knowledge of the wisdom councils. Another way of looking at it, this was Arthur's round table. They all came together and they learned how to master this. They learned how to master these things within themselves so that they can be in those positions to be way showers for culture. But then you got all the dark ones that want to come in and steal the secrets and then use them again. See, guys, it never ends. And the reason it never ends is because people don't know these things. They don't know the occult. And that's why it's coming back to the forefront now, as far as I'm concerned, more within the last 3 to 4 years than it has been. And it needs to. Anyway. Just as a warning for everybody, we got a little less than 10 minutes before the show comes to a close, but we got plenty of time. I had 2 questions that popped up with this. I wanted to ask you, and this is going to be basically a rune interpretation question. When I first picked up the runes and I was looking what all the rune meanings were, and I looked at, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Thrisas, which Thrisas, the interpretation I was seeing is that it represents the principles of chaos and or evil, but it also translates to thorn or Thor at the same time. Is that interpretation in part correct? Well, when it comes to the runes, I got to be honest with you, I'm still learning them. I'm still learning how to remember this science. I've been working with Tiawas for over a year. Tiawas has everything to do with how the science of the fulcrum works, the mathematics of the 396, also the spindle, which is 0 and 9, and has everything to do with Tyr, the true God, I'll say, the grandfather of the tradition of my ancestors.
And then I have to ask this then, if you know Tiawas. I'm totally sorry, but this is so important to me. My interpretations with Tiawas show up in all, like, most of the interpretations that pop up say that if you see Tiawas reversed, that part of the interpretation is to beware of left-handed people. That drives me nuts, because I'm a left-handed. What's going on with left and right hand in the relationship with Tiawas?
Right, good question. Again, this goes back to the mathematics of the 396, and Tiawas, in context to it being inverted, is where an individual becomes polarized. You're not in harmony, you're not in balance within the fulcrum specifically. So if you look at Tiawas, it's an arrow, right? And without the fulcrum there present at the bottom of the rune, okay, just look at the lines, because you can put 3, 9, 6, and 0 right on the points of the lines, and right there you have whole science that's going to put you into alignment, not only with your true core essence, but the grid works of consciousness that are beyond the lockdown, just with Tiawas alone. If it's inverted,
okay, polarize it. Okay, wow. All right, that's great. That's great. That gives me such good clarity. It's going to really help.
There's the interpretation of the runes coming from other individuals, but what are the runes actually teaching you themselves? Are you listening to what they are saying? And then going to find reference for confirmation. You study as much as you need to, but the real way to study the runes, the real way to study the tarot, is to listen to the runes, listen to the tarot itself. Look at the symbolism. Okay, what's going on here? What does this really represent? You know, because it's just lines or pictures or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that. So, in context to the rune that you mentioned, I honestly don't know much about that one, because I have not been working with that one.
Okay.
I've been working with Tiawas specifically, just Tiawas. And some people want to learn the runes in a week. This specific science, and something that I'm definitely going to be doing in the future with our services. So,
man, there's about 2 minutes left, and I wanted to, because the way this conversation was going, so maybe give people like a highlight kind of answer, because I want you to also have enough time just to like plug your show and your stuff and your services before the break overpowers our voices. One of the questions that was on my list about moving forward with our relationship with gods, interdimensional beings, and whatnot, because I changed my behavior when I started listening to you and started really thinking more precautiously about what I'd be inviting into my energy field.
It's to recognize the fact that every race of being is now called to be in the position to evolve. There is no being out there that is above human. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, being here in physicality, this is where they want to be. The dark ones, unfortunately, they don't have the balls to incarnate. And so I do not see them as more powerful or more knowledgeable about how things actually work. Okay, because the grid works I'm pulling in, where I'm actually coming from, coming into this incarnation is far beyond what they can even wrap their tiny little brains around. So, in context, I give respect to the gods. I give respect to every spirit. But if something's going to come into my field and try to mess with me, it's within cosmic jurisdiction to take it out if necessary.
Absolutely. I think with that, because the break is going to creep sometime in the next 3 minutes. Could be now, could be then. Yeah. Go ahead and plug yourself, please.
Absolutely. If people want to get a hold of me, please send me an email at blackearthproductions@hotmail.com. Go ahead and check out the website at blackearthproductions.com. Go on over to YouTube, check out the YouTube channel. Just type in Black Earth Productions. All people really got to do is do an internet search and just type in Black Earth Productions. All of my stuff will come up on there if people have a problem with finding anything. So,
I just want to say, Seth, ironically, my show, Wild at Heart, is going to be on A in a little bit, but, for anybody who wants to be a caller or yourself, Sethikus, you're welcome to, come on my show, whenever it's on, just let me know or whatever.
Yeah, maybe we can set something up for the future. That'd be
wonderful.
Okay. Cool.
There it is. Excellent.
Awesome, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sethikus. This has been a serious thrill, a nice little milestone for me. I love you all. I'm going to see you guys next week. No guests set up, so it's going to be more me on a tear. And I'm working on getting Jordan Maxwell back. I will see you guys on the flip side.
Travel dimensions for eternity.